Res-
They should have.
Did you go to subtitles?
Hello. Are you
Yeah.
listening?
Quiet.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Understanding before you came up with your lagi later. Okay. All right. Let us go through here. Satu lagi event. Activities. Okay. The BPM and core elements here. This is where you are looking into activities.
Subtitles are actually not really needed.
Oh, subtitles are not needed in English?
Oh, subtitles in English, you mean?
Yeah. And then we were going to try to do also subtitles in Indonesian.
But you don't need
Not
the English.
necessary,
Okay,
because
Not
everybody joining the webinar speaks English well.
Okay. So would you like to have subtitles in English too?
That
Just in English at the bottom of my PowerPoint slides?
would probably be okay. Is it possible, technicians, to show the subtitles?
Yeah.
Menunjukkan subtitlesnya, dia ngomong bahasa Inggrisnya keluar subtitles.
So
Perlu
Indonesian
nggak? Atau bisa diatur nggak?
well, in Indonesian.
Okay, so
Now they're talking about subtitles in English.
only just Zoom is subtitled in English, but they don't need the English subtitle.
In English, that's also not necessary, probably.
It's okay.
Technically speaking, it's difficult to handle from this side right now.
Okay. So I'll just you will give me the screen.
Okay.
And I will make my presentation, right?
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, are you now on the status as a co-host already? Status dia di co-host kan nggak? Untuk bisa sudah?
You can share screen. So you can share screen.
Yeah, I can share my screen. I'm okay. I can share my screen.
Distinguished university.
Some people are waiting.
You should know subtitle, no English, no English. That's fine. So that the whole host is the university.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. You go on that.
頑張って。
Yeah, from our end, everything looks pretty good. Okay.
Lady. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming to the International Distinguished Scholar Webinar Series, World Class University, organized by the Directorate of International Affairs, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. The webinar is commencing in 20 minutes. Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia is located in Bandung, West Java. Living in Bandung means students and scholars will experience vibrant, warm, and progressive city environment. Bandung offers high-quality environment for students and scholars' living standards, starting from academic support facilities, natural and man-made recreational facilities, achievable transportations, and ample green open spaces. In Indonesia, Bandung is popular for its nickname, Kota Kembang or the City of Flower. Since decades ago, Bandung has always been known for its lovely weather because of the trees along the way, and known to be a beautiful city because of its famous ornamental flower varieties. Then, how to get more information regarding studying at UP or joining UP international events? Here at UP's Directorate of International Affairs will be pleasure to assist you. Directorate of International Affairs, which was formerly known as the Office of International Education and Relation, is an office at Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia whom handles all international relations. DIA aims to support the internationalization goals of the university and to manage international mobility involving local and international students, faculty members, and other academics relations. As a university with a jargon leading and outstanding, UP has actively collaborated with many universities from all over the world, such as Philippines, Japan, Malaysia, Afghanistan, Germany, United Kingdom, Taiwan, South Korea, Uzbekistan, Finland, Canada, and many more. With experiences in working with various countries around the world, DIA will assist and serve all international students and prospective students without any differences. International students will be also helped by the presence of DIA student buddies, who will be helping them to adapt while studying at UP and living in Bandung. Therefore, international students will have no difficulty adopting here. There are many programs that have been held by DIA UP. For scholars, there are international faculty programs and visiting scholars, which connect foreign lecturers and UP academic community. For international students, there are various programs that you can be involved in and be a part of UP's community. There are C-Teacher, dan Mahasiswa Republik Indonesia Scholarship Program, KNB Scholarship Program, Summer Program, International Student Bodies Virtual Summit, International Culinary Days, and many more. And don't worry, for UP students, we also have special programs for you. If you want to study abroad or study culture-related course, student exchange is the answer. We have PPL Sekolah Indonesia Luar Negeri, student internship, summer program, and international culinary days. So, what are you waiting for? Just follow our social media on Instagram at dia.up, visit our website at www.dia.up.edu, and contact us through email dia@up.edu to find more information. We are waiting for your participation in our programs.
This is Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia was initially established in 20th of October 1954 in Bandung City as Teachers Education College. The institution was integrated as a part of Pajajaran University, then amended into Institute of Teacher Education and Educational Sciences, or IKIP, and finally re-established as Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, or UPI. The Bumi Siliwangi building, formerly known as Villa Isola, is the university's main building as well as its icon. Villa Isola, an Art Deco building that currently serves as the Rectorate building, is now inaugurated as one of the nation's cultural heritage buildings. UPI's primary mission is to become a leading and outstanding university. Thereby, UPI is committed to promote academic excellence and nurture innovation and scholarly development in order to be a leading pioneer in the field of education. By having scientific, educative, and religious as its motto, UPI strives to balance the three concepts, all in one harmony. Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia is made up of 8 faculties: Faculty of Educational Sciences, Faculty of Social Science Education, Faculty of Language and Literature Education, Faculty of Mathematics and Science Education, Faculty of Technology and Vocational Education, Faculty of Sports and Health Science Education, Faculty of Economics and Business Education, Faculty of Art and Design Education, and UPI also offers postgraduate programs at the School of Postgraduate, including various research opportunities and civic services at the Center of Research and Community Services. Additionally, UPI also offers non-educational courses as a mandate extension of the government to nurture future graduates of non-educational programs. UPI, in its academic implementation, is committed to applied cross-fertilization approach between educational and non-educational programs to mutually strengthen both of the areas. A part of the main campus in Bandung, UPI is strengthened by 6 branch campuses, which located in several locations. UPI Bumi Siliwangi, UPI Cibiru, UPI Tasikmalaya, UPI Purwakarta, UPI Sumedang, and UPI Serang. In fostering student activities, UPI optimizes the empowerment of Student Activity Unit, namely UKM, or Unit Kegiatan Mahasiswa, and the engagement of students in various activities related to their talents, interests, and intellectual. Thus, it is not surprising if UPI students got so many achievements at the national and international level. As the center of the science and education practices development, UPI also has a laboratory schools ranged from early childhood education to high school level located at the main campus and the branch campuses. In supporting the national education preservation and fostering a brighter future of education, UPI built the Museum of National Education, expected to be sources of learning, research, educative, leisure for the public, particularly for students on all levels. From the dazzling land of Bumi Siliwangi, welcome to Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, the leading and outstanding university.
Welcome to Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia.
Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia is located in Bandung, West Java. Living in Bandung means students and scholars will experience vibrant, warm, and progressive city environment. Bandung offers high-quality environment for students and scholars' living standards, starting from academic support facilities, natural and man-made recreational facilities, achievable transportations, and ample green open spaces. In Indonesia, Bandung is popular for its nickname, Kota Kembang or the City of Flower. Since decades ago, Bandung has always been known for its lovely weather because of the trees along the way, and known to be a beautiful city because of its famous ornamental flower varieties. Then, how to get more information regarding studying at UP or joining UP international events? Here at UP's Directorate of International Affairs will be pleasure to assist you. Directorate of International Affairs, which was formerly known as the Office of International Education and Relation, is an office at Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia whom handles all international relations. DIA aims to support the internationalization goals of the university and to manage international mobility involving local and international students, faculty members, and other academic relations. As a university with a jargon leading and outstanding, UP has actively collaborated with many universities from all over the world, such as Philippines, Japan, Malaysia, Afghanistan, Germany, United Kingdom, Taiwan, South Korea, Uzbekistan, Finland, Canada, and many more. With experiences in working with various countries around the world, DIA will assist and serve all international students and prospective students without any differences. International students will be also helped by the presence of DIA student buddies, who will be helping them to adapt while studying at UP and living in Bandung. Therefore, international students will have no difficulty adopting here. There are many programs that have been held by DIA UP. For scholars, there are international faculty programs and visiting scholars, which connect foreign lecturers and UP academic community. For international students, there are various programs that you can be involved in and be a part of UP's community. There are C-Teacher, dan Mahasiswa Republik Indonesia Scholarship Program, KNB Scholarship Program, Summer Program, International Student Bodies Virtual Summit, International Culinary Days, and many more. And don't worry, for UP students, we also have special programs for you. If you want to study abroad or study culture-related course, student exchange is the answer. We have PPL Sekolah Indonesia Luar Negeri, student internship, summer program, and international culinary days. So, what are you waiting for? Just follow our social media on Instagram at dia.up, visit our website at www.dia.up.edu, and contact us through email dia@up.edu to find more information. We are waiting for your participation in our programs.
This is Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia was initially established in 20th of October 1954 in Bandung City as Teachers Education College. The institution was integrated as a part of Pajajaran University, then amended into Institute of Teacher Education and Educational Sciences, or IKIP, and finally re-established as Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, or UPI. The Bumi Siliwangi building, formerly known as Villa Isola, is the university's main building as well as its icon. Villa Isola, an Art Deco building that currently serves as the Rectorate building, is now inaugurated as one of the nation's cultural heritage buildings. UPI's primary mission is to become a leading and outstanding university. Thereby, UPI is committed to promote academic excellence and nurture innovation and scholarly development in order to be a leading pioneer in the field of education. By having scientific, educative, and religious as its motto, UPI strives to balance the three concepts, all in one harmony. Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia is made up of 8 faculties: Faculty of Educational Sciences, Faculty of Social Science Education, Faculty of Language and Literature Education, Faculty of Mathematics and Science Education, Faculty of Technology and Vocational Education, Faculty of Sports and Health Science Education, Faculty of Economics and Business Education, Faculty of Art and Design Education, and UPI also offers postgraduate programs at the School of Postgraduate, including various research opportunities and civic services at the Center of Research and Community Services. Additionally, UPI also offers non-educational courses as a mandate extension of the government to nurture future graduates of non-educational programs. UPI, in its academic implementation, is committed to apply cross-fertilization approach between educational and non-educational programs to mutually strengthen both of the areas. A part of the main campus in Bandung, UPI is strengthened by 6 branch campuses, which located in several locations. UPI Bumi Siliwangi, UPI Cibiru, UPI Tasikmalaya, UPI Purwakarta, UPI Sumedang, and UPI Serang. In fostering student activities, UPI optimizes the empowerment of Student Activity Unit, namely UKM, or Unit Kegiatan Mahasiswa, and the engagement of students in various activities related to their talents, interests, and intellectual. Thus, it is not surprising if UPI students got so many achievements at the national and international level. As the center of the science and education practices development, UPI also has a laboratory schools ranged from early childhood education to high school level located at the main campus and the branch campuses. In supporting the national education preservation and fostering a brighter future of education, UPI built the Museum of National Education, expected to be sources of learning, research, educative, leisure for the public, particularly for students on all levels. From the dazzling land of Bumi Siliwangi, welcome to Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, the leading and outstanding university.
Welcome to Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia.
And gentlemen, can I have your attention, please? The International Distinguished Scholar Webinar Series, World Class University, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, is commencing shortly. I would like everybody to be reminded to keep their microphone off. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good morning to you all from Bandung, Indonesia, and also a very good afternoon and a very good evening to you all from different sides of the world. I do hope everybody is in good health and safety amidst the pandemic. My name is Chep Ubad Abdullah, and I'm very privileged to be hosting today's agenda. The Honorable Rector of Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, UPI, Professor Dr. M. Solehuddin, MA, the Honorable Vice Rector for Education and Student Affairs, Professor Dr. Didi Sukyadi, MA, the Honorable Vice Rector for Finance and Human Resources, Professor Dr. Agus Rahayu, MP, the Honorable Vice Rector for Planning, Organization, and Information System, Professor Dr. Bunyamin Maftuh, MPD, MA, the Honorable Vice Rector for Research, International Affairs, Business and Partnership, Professor Dr. Adang Suherman, MA, the honorable speaker, the legendary, the one and only Professor John W. Criswell. Thank you so much for coming. It's such an honor for us to have you here. The honorable moderator, Professor Dr. Fuad Abdul Hamid, MA, the honorable head of UPI Academic Senate, Professor Dr. Didi Sukyadi, MED, the honorable deans, vice deans, heads of departments, heads of study programs, directors of directorates, director of regional campuses, researcher, and lecturers from Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, and distinguished guests, all participants of today's agenda. Warmest greetings and welcome to the International Distinguished Scholar Webinar Series, World Class University, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. This event, organized by the Directorate of International Affairs, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, UPI, the Education University, is the second out of 7 webinar series as a part of commemoration of UPI's 67th anniversary, or Dies Natalis. We are so honored to be in the presence of none other than Professor Criswell, who will give a talk on mixed methods research today. To begin with, I would like to invite the Director of Directorate of International Affairs, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, DIA UPI, Bapak Ahmad Bukhari Muslim, PhD, to deliver his report. Bapak Ahmad Bukhari, please.
Thank you, Pak Ubad. Honorable Professor John W. Criswell of University of Michigan, Honorable Professor Salahuddin, Director of Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, Professor Didi Sukyadi, the Vice Rector for Education and Students Affairs, all other Vice Rectors, Professor Fuad Abdul Hamid as the moderator for today's webinar from Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, and honorables, all deans, directors, and other dignitaries, and of course, all esteemed participants from Indonesia and overseas. Good morning and selamat pagi from Indonesia. It is a great honor to welcome you all to this International Distinguished Scholar Webinar Series 2, organized by Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. We will have 7 series altogether, which will run every week until the end of this November as part of our University 67th anniversary, or Dies Natalis. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that Professor Criswell is undoubtedly one of the most distinguished scholars in the area of research methodology. He has authored numerous best-selling books in research methodology, as the moderator will show you soon. With these incredible reputations, it is no wonder that this international webinar receives a significant enthusiasm and large reception from both participants, Indonesians and overseas participants. One day after the webinar flyer was distributed, the organizing committee received about 4,500 registrations. Considering our organization capacity, we decided to temporarily close the registrations. But as the demand remains high, we reopened the registration for another day and received the total of 7,400 plus participants. To accommodate this high demand, we decided to use both Zoom meetings and also YouTube live streaming so that more audience can take benefits from his esteemed expertise in mixed method research. The participants of the webinar today come from both Indonesia and overseas. Of these 7,400 plus participants, as many as 853 participants are from 31 countries, such as Afghanistan, Argentina, Australia, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Brunei, Cambodia, China, Ecuador, Philippines, Ghana, India, Iran, Iraq, South Korea, Libya, Malaysia, Egypt, Maldives, Myanmar, Nigeria, Oman, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, Somalia, Taiwan, Thailand, Ukraine, Vietnam, and Yemen. And of course, due to the pandemic, we can only organize a webinar, not a regular conference or seminar. But we do hope that the pandemic will go away soon so that we can warmly welcome you all participants at our regular seminar at Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the webinar. I wish you an insightful and enlightening webinar. Thank you and Assalamualaikum.
Thank you. Thank you, Pak Ahmad Bukhari, the Director of Directorate of International Affairs, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, for the report. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to invite Rector of Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, who in this occasion is represented by the Vice Rector for Education and Student Affairs, Professor Dr. Didi Sukyadi MA, to deliver his welcoming speech and to officially open today's agenda. Pak Didi Sukyadi, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Pak Ubad. The Honorable Distinguished Guest Speaker, Professor John W. Creswell, PhD, the Honorable Rectors, Vice Rectors, and University Secretary, the Honorable Moderator, Professor Fuad Abdul Hamid, PhD, the Honorable Deans, Vice Deans, Professors, and Doctors, the Honorable Director of International Affairs, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, Pak Ahmad Bukhari Muslim, PhD, and team, dear participants, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to all colleagues in Indonesia and abroad. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I remind all of you to keep applying COVID-19 anticipation protocols, wearing a face mask, washing your hands regularly, maintaining physical distance, and being vaccinated, as COVID-19 is still around us. Secondly, I'm honored to have you here in our webinar, John. I know that you are now in Japan. We all know and read your books, especially the mixed method one. It is one of the most cited books in Indonesia and maybe all over the world in almost all disciplines, including education, language, social sciences, humanities, and health. So thank you for being with us and welcome to our virtual webinar entitled Mixed Method Research Today. And welcome to Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, warmest greeting from Bandung. My simple understanding about mixed method is, correct me if I'm wrong, that when at a single research, we use both quantitative and qualitative approach. That is what I can understand. For example, to explore the teacher's perception towards the use of L1 in textbook, we can use survey and interview and do both numbers and text. I don't know whether it is right or wrong, John. Thirdly, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, UPI, is a comprehensive university with special core business in education, especially in educating teachers. It is located in Bandung, which is around 130 kilometers to the south of Jakarta. Bandung is the city where Asia-Africa Conference was organized in 1955. UPI serves both undergraduate and graduate students with about 35,000 students at this time from all over Indonesia and some from other countries. In education subject, UPI belongs to the top 300 according to QS ranking, top 500 according to Asian University ranking, and top 1,200 according to Time Higher Education ranking in 2021. UPI is committed to become a world-class university, especially in education. Our tagline at the moment is UPI, the Education University. Finally, in this very good opportunity, I thank to all parties that have made this webinar possible, especially to the International Affairs staff, Pak Ahmad Bukhari and team, to the moderator, Professor Fuad Abdul Hamid, and to our renowned world-class speaker, Professor John W. Creswell. Just an info for you, Professor John, Prof. Fuad and myself are Fulbright grantees. I stayed in Tucson for 5 months in 2003 and visited Tombstone in Arizona. And now I like watching gunfight at OK Coral movies. Yeah, I like White Oaks and Doc Holiday. Yeah, with the request from the Master of Ceremony, Professor Ubad, Pak Ubad, I officially open this webinar by reciting Basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you so much. Have a nice webinar. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Barakatuh. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Didi Sukyadi MA, Vice Rector for Education and Student Affairs, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, for the warmest welcoming speech and for officially opening today's agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, now that the agenda has just been officially opened, it's time for us to listen to the talk from Professor Creswell. But first, allow me to announce several points. First, I would like to inform you that due to the enthusiastic participations of the registered participants for today, the committee has decided to have 5 different Zoom links. And also later on the discussion session, the participant can go to slido.com to ask questions. And also you can enter the code #TopWebinar1. It is actually case sensitive, so you need to pay attention to the capital letters. Once again, so you go to slido.com and enter the code #TopWebinar1, and it is case sensitive. Ladies and gentlemen, the talk and the discussion session for today's webinar will be chaired by our distinguished professor, Professor Fuad Abdul Hamid MA, who I believe needs no introduction. However, allow me to briefly read his short biography. Professor Fuad Abdul Hamid is a professor at Indonesia University of Education, and he earned his PhD in education from Southern Illinois University at Carbondale, Illinois, USA. He is former president of Asia TEFL and TEFLIN, and now editor-in-chief of the Indonesian Journal of Applied Linguistics, in addition to being editor and reviewer in some other reputable journals. His articles and books on language education, research methods, language assessment, and policies are, among others, published by Cambridge University Press, Routledge, Nova Publisher, Springer, UP Press, and Multilingual Matters. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please join me in giving the warmest welcome to Professor Fuad Abdul Hamid.
Okay. Hello. Good morning, especially to those of you who is right now in Indonesia, and also to those in the neighboring countries. Good evening to those of you on the other side of the globe. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'd like to welcome you all to the first event of the International Distinguished Scholar Webinar hosted by Indonesia University of Education in Bandung, Indonesia. I am indeed overjoyed to chair this webinar, especially after learning that over 7,500 people have registered for it. And of course, we are grateful to the rector of Indonesia University of Education, who has invited the one and only John W. Criswell, the very magnet that has attracted thousands of participants in the audience right now. And of course, there are thousands left behind due to the capacity of Zoom that we have. I am aware that no one wants to listen to me actually, but only to John Criswell, but it's fine with me. And it is an honor for me, ladies and gentlemen, as webinar moderator, to introduce to you John W. Criswell, a figure that actually needs no introduction. Back in 1974, John W. Criswell received his PhD from the University of Iowa in the field of sociology and college leadership. His university degrees are all from Iowa, the country's largest corn producer, famous called as Hawkeye State, or sometimes we also call Tall Corn State. Is that right, John? And every 4 years, when holding a presidential election in the US, when come to caucuses, Americans are accustomed to focusing on the state of Iowa. His bachelor's and master's degrees are also from the University of Iowa. Dr. John W. Criswell is currently a family medicine professor and a senior research scientist at the University of Michigan's Michigan Mixed Methods program. He has written, of course, as we know, numerous articles and books about research design, qualitative research, mixed methods research, and he held the Clifton Endowed Professor Chair at the University of Nebraska for many years, served as director of the Mixed Methods Research Office, and co-founded the Journal of Mixed Methods Research. He was a senior Fulbright scholar in South Africa in 2008 and in Thailand in 2009. And he was the inaugural president of the Mixed Methods International Research Association. In 2015, he joined the staff, teaching staff of family medicine at the University of Michigan, and he became the co-director of the Mixed Methods Research Program. And some of you probably know that in 2018, his book on qualitative inquiry and research design won the US Textbook and Academic Authors 2018 McGaffey Longevity Award. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Criswell in 2020 appointed to adjunct professor faculty position at the University of Hawaii, Manoa. Professor John W. Criswell currently, therefore, lives in 2 different places, in Ashia, Japan, and in Honolulu, Hawaii. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Professor John W. Criswell and his talk will be on mixed methods research today, not yesterday. Professor Criswell, please.
Professor Hamid, and distinguished rectors, leaders, professors, and participants from all over the world. It's such a delight for me to present to you today. I'm coming to you from Ashia, Japan, which is a city between let me pull up my share my screen here. I'll get my slides started.
Yes, Professor, it's showing.
Good, that's good. So yes, and I'm so delighted to hear that there are over 7,000 people on this special webinar series. I'm delighted that the world-class university in Indonesia has sponsored these webinars to bring people together. And I've been living with my Japanese wife here in Japan for about 3 or 4 years now. And it's my particular dream that mixed methods is encouraged throughout the Asian countries, especially. And I'm working very hard to encourage that type of development. Now, I'm trying to be very sensitive to the different cultures that are embracing mixed methods research. And I always ask, how is mixed methods being adapted to best fit the Indonesian culture or the culture of Japan or even the Hawaiian culture? I want to be very sensitive to the culture as mixed method spreads around the world. What I thought I would do today is just to give an introduction to mixed methods research, to talk about some of the latest developments in mixed methods research. And I'm going to begin, as you see on this slide, with my background, a little bit about my training in research methodology that has brought me to this point of making presentations on it around the world. Then I'm going to talk about what is mixed methods research so that we all have a common way of thinking about mixed methods research. Okay. Going back here. Then I'm going to go into the 11 steps in actually designing a mixed method study. I'll try to make this as practical as possible and take you through how I talk to people when they come to me with the mixed methods project. And I'll be bringing in some of the latest thinking that's being reported in the mixed methods journals, that's being reported in conferences and workshops around the country. You can post your questions in the chat box, but Professor Hamid will be a moderator, so I'm sure he'll be deciding on questions and helping with the question and answer part. My presentation is going to last about 60 minutes, and then we'll have a question and answer at the end. Don't hesitate to ask any question. It can be a very basic, simple question or a more complex question. I'll just try my best to answer all of your questions. And I'm going to speak slowly because we have a large international audience with us here today. I'm going to use images to simplify ideas as much as possible. So let me begin with a little bit about my background. I need to start by saying that I was trained as a quantitative researcher back in the 1970s at Iowa, as you learned during the introduction. And then by 1985 or so, I was teaching qualitative research. I volunteered to teach qualitative research. So I started reading books on qualitative research and educated myself. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, I was beginning to write, think about, and to bring into my teaching mixed methods research. So you can see my career has moved from quantitative to qualitative.
So there is a connection problem in Japan right now from Professor Creswell. Please bear with us. We are waiting to get it fixed.
So ladies and gentlemen, while we're waiting for Professor Creswell to get back to the Zoom link, I would like to remind you that we're using slido.com for the Q&A session. So you can enter the website and enter the code of #TopWebinar1. And we would like you to be reminded to also state your full name and your affiliation and the country you are currently from. Thank you. Okay. Welcome back, Professor Creswell.
I'm back.
All
I'm
right.
back. Can you see my slides okay?
Okay. Oh, your slides is not on yet.
Okay. I need to get the,
It's good.
I need to share my screen. Okay. Sorry for that interruption. I don't know exactly what happened there. Now, can you see my slides?
Yes.
Okay. I seem to be back. Okay, I'm sorry about that, and I don't know why that occurred. But I was talking about my training. I started in quantitative, went to qualitative, and then moved to mixed methods. And so really, I was at the very beginning when mixed methods started to be written about by the scholars around the world. I put this at the 1985 to 1990 time period. And I remember I went to a conference at the American Educational Research Conference in, I think it was 1992. And there was a panel presenter speaking about mixed methods research. And I was so excited. I felt, you know, this is the way that we need to move forward. In the past, quantitative and qualitative were kept separate, and people didn't really bring the two together. And this person was doing that. Well, at that session, there were only two people, the speaker and John Cresswell. And I'm sure the speaker felt I was this crazy professor, but I felt so strongly that this would be the methodology of the future that is developed. And so you can see through my background and resume here, I then opened the Office of Mixed Methods Research. By 2007, I helped with Sage Publication to start the Journal of Mixed Methods Research, and then the International Association. And I'm really proud to have been a Fulbright Scholar in both South Africa and Thailand. And today from Asia, even though we have this tragic pandemic that has influenced all of us around the world, the one bright, happy spot is that we can do webinars and we can go online and deliver to people all over the world in a very convenient way. And so I give a lot of webinar presentations and keynoting conferences. In the summer, I teach a mixed methods course at the University of Hawaii, which introduces the Hawaiian culture. And then at Michigan, we have 3 to 5 workshops a year. In fact, we will have one next year or next week. And they're very, very popular workshops. And so I help out with those workshops. My books have already been mentioned here, so I don't need to go into that, but my books divide into really 3 categories: general research design books, which you see here in the center, and then my 2 qualitative books here. And if you're new to qualitative research, as many people, scholars are in the Asian countries, I would recommend this 30 Essential Skills book. It's now being translated into Japanese. I know it will be translated into other languages, but it's a very basic introduction to qualitative research. So I would direct your attention there. And then down here on the left are my 2 mixed methods books. This concise book, Concise Introduction to Mixed Methods Research from Sage Publication, just came out in the 2nd edition last summer. So it's new, and it's a very short book. If you're new to mixed methods research, you might take a look at this book. It can be read in several hours. It's inexpensive. It's been, the 1st edition was translated into many languages around the world. And it's my attempt to bring a very specific, practical introduction to mixed methods research. Okay, so that's a little bit about my background. Those are the 6 books that are currently active. And I keep working on new editions. I now have co-authors with most of these books to help me out. And I'm just so excited about how mixed methods has grown and developed since this early time period when I became involved in 1985 to 1990. That was my time period that I became interested. It's not only expanded in the US, but all over the world as a methodology that has attracted attention. I started in education, and then I started talking about mixed methods in the social sciences, and now it's at the health sciences. And so that's the reason why I'm in the Department of Family Medicine at Michigan. That department wanted to start a world-class training center in mixed methods research. And so with Dr. Fetters, who is now the editor of the Journal of Mixed Methods Research, he and I started that program, and it's been very, very successful. Well, I'm going to go through a few slides here on what is mixed methods research now. And I'm going to share my approach to it. I think a definition is helpful.
Ladies and gentlemen, we get disconnected again with Professor Criswell.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So this is an approach to research investigating behavioral, social, health-related problems. And I put in the...
Your slides have to be shared again. Putus lagi ya.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, in addition to the 5 different Zoom links, we're also live streaming from TV UP YouTube channel. And apparently there are over 1,000 viewers. And I would like you to please subscribe on the YouTube channel. And also we would like to remind you that the questions can be pondered on the slido.com by entering the code of hashtag UP webinar 1, and it is actually case sensitive. Or you can scan the QR code on your screen to ask questions to Professor Creswell.
Now, we're back. And everyone can see this slide, what is mixed methods research, I assume. So I was going through the definitions and pointing out that in the yellow, I highlighted the key ideas of mixed methods research. And I want to take that a few steps further. So here are the key components in a good mixed method study. I think you start with questions and data, and you bring the 2 databases together in a design, and you draw insight from that. So a visual picture of this is we need both qualitative and quantitative data in mixed methods. And we're going to combine these 2 databases. I used the picture here of 2 hands. In South Africa, a leading professor said to me, Professor Creswell, mixed methods is really 2 hands coming together, the quantitative and qualitative. And now we're going to put this integration into a specific set of procedures, a mixed methods design. And then from this design and the integration, we then can draw some insights, which are called meta inferences, about what we learned from integrating the two databases. So I'm starting to introduce some of the language here of mixed methods research, which is very important. Every research approach has a language. Mixed methods, we talk about the integration of the data. We talk about the procedures in a design, and we talk about drawing insight from these procedures across the databases called meta inferences. So I'll keep reinforcing these ideas as I proceed ahead. So I created this visual, and really I'm beginning to think that mixed methods is, at its core, really involves the concept of integrating two databases. You know, prior to the 1980s, when I first started working in this area, people kept the two databases separate. They were collecting both quantitative and qualitative, but they were not really putting the two databases together in any type of a systematic way. So I think at the core of mixed methods is understanding this idea of the integration of data. So we bring our data in and we integrate it. We then use our procedures for integration, and we draw new insights from this integration. In other words, it's important to learn from quantitative and qualitative research, but then when we begin combining the two sets of data, we get additional information. So, you know, really what we're going to be doing is bringing these two databases together in this concept called integration. You know, when we do a study and we collect both quantitative and qualitative data, from the quantitative data, we get important results. We can generalize to the population, come up with confidence intervals, measure the magnitude of the differences among the variables or among the groups. When we do a qualitative study, we come up with very important results too. Understanding the views and experiences of participants, understanding those views within a particular setting where they're living, working, where the problem occurs. And we try to explore one key concept called a central phenomenon in more detail. So we come up with very good quantitative and qualitative results. When we bring in mixed methods, it links these two, and it gives us more insight than what we learned quantitatively or qualitatively. And that, I think, that integration and being able to draw that insight from the integration of two databases is really a major advantage of doing mixed methods research. So when we think about mixed methods as a way of doing research, as a methodology, there are some distinct advantages of using it. It means that when we do a study, we need to collect both quantitative and qualitative data. And I'm going to go into those two forms of data here in a moment. By bringing in the two databases together, we're actually doing more detailed analysis on the databases than just the quantitative and the qualitative analysis. We're mining the data further to gain our insights. And I think the problems that we're addressing today are so complex that we do need both quantitative and qualitative data. To understand the pandemic, we need to know the rate of vaccinations, but we also need to talk to people and get their stories and perceptions about why some may not be willing to get vaccinated. So bringing qualitative and quantitative to so many of our pressing problems today is important. I think another reason to use mixed methods research and why it's important is it is really being seen, I believe, as the most recent research methodology, which means that if a graduate student uses mixed methods, they're using a very current, up-to-date methodology for their project. That helps get funding, it helps get publications, and I think what has made mixed methods different than the development of other methodologies is that mixed methods has expanded and grown during this internet period that we're in, where now we can share information widely to many people around the world through the internet, through webinars, through Facebooks, messages, through email. Other methodologies did not grow up in such an internet-rich environment that can continue to encourage the use of this methodology. And for some quantitative researchers, and many of the countries in Asia that I work with are more strongly quantitatively oriented than qualitatively. The quantitative researchers see the need to understand the human behavior, the perceptions, the voices of people to be added to quantitative. These are just some of the reasons why I think mixed methods has grown and developed around the world. Okay, so that's kind of a brief introduction to mixed methods research. And now I want to go into 11 steps in designing a good mixed methods project. And here are the 11 steps I'm going to go through one by one, and I'm going to give you illustrations of each. First, determine mixed methods is an appropriate. This is a good methodology to use. Indicate your worldview. Draft a good mixed methods title. Identify the problem and what type of a problem leads to a mixed methods project. I'll go through that. State quantitative, qualitative, and mixed methods questions. List your 2 databases to be collected. Identify your design. Draw a picture or a diagram of your design. Identify steps in your mixed methods data analysis, integration, joint display, and meta inferences. At Michigan, for step 9, mixed methods data analysis, we've been pushing our thinking. And so I hope to share with you some of the latest thinking on mixed methods data analysis. Consider a conceptual framework or theory for your study. And finally, detail the validity challenges in your design. Now, I'm going to talk about this, as if you've come into my office and you say, Professor Cresswell, I would like to do a mixed methods study. Well, I've worked with so many people on their projects. I have some steps in mind, these 11 steps that I would take you through to give you some advice and encourage you to develop parts of your mixed methods project. So this is going to be a very applied discussion of the steps in conducting a mixed methods study. I'm going to start with really the first question I need to ask you, and that is mixed methods an appropriate methodology or approach for your study? And I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on this step 1. I'm going to talk in terms of your research problem or question, your skills, your knowledge of mixed methods research and research in general, your familiarity with mixed methods, understanding the terms, mixed methods terms, and the support that you have. Is it best to do mixed methods research in terms of your data? One of the questions I would ask you, do you have an opportunity to collect both quantitative and qualitative data? Some people refer to this as numbered data and stories, or numeric data and text. I'm going to talk in terms of open-ended versus closed-ended data, but do you have an opportunity to collect both forms of data? And then also, will your collection of both forms of data lead to a better understanding of your research problem? Or gathering the quantitative data alone, administering an instrument, getting the scores, that would give you good understanding. Or maybe you want to do a qualitative study where you just need to explore. But you need both, those personal perspectives as well as numeric analyses and scores. I think that would lead to mixed methods research. Then I'd ask you a little bit about your skills. Now, mixed methods does take what I call a big toolkit of skills. Quantitative skills, knowing how to analyze, collect and analyze quantitative data, and qualitative skills too, collecting both qualitative data and analyzing it. Well, and then your mixed method skills. Have you been reading articles? Have you been reading books? Certainly to be a good researcher, you need good writing skills. And I think people that are conducting research need the skills in being able to receive feedback from others that would help them develop further. Now, in any one researcher, there may not be all of these skills. And often people in mixed methods team with others that have complementary skills. So team research is becoming very important in mixed methods research, especially if we get a funded project. We're going to have people on that team that have quantitative skills.
So ladies and gentlemen, my apologies for the inconvenience. I would like to again remind you that your questions can be asked through slido.com. You can access the website and then enter the code of hashtag #topwebinar1. We're going to select the questions and then later ask them to Professor Creswell.
We are back. So I went through these slides on the different skills that you have. And let's go to the next one here. Do you have qualitative research skills? So I put together a little visual here that might be helpful. You know, in qualitative research, we study problems where we really don't know what the questions are or even the variables to measure. We're going to ask very general questions of people. We're going to study a small number of participants, come up with the database that we then code and come up with themes. We're really exploring, we end up developing a complex picture. And participant respect and coming up with accurate, valid account. And also reflexivity, bringing ourselves into the project is very much qualitative research. Quantitative research, we start with a problem. We're very interested in a sample, especially a random sample of participants from a population. We ask questions or hypotheses. We then gather data and come up with some measures and scores on those instruments. We analyze those scores, then report results. And I think the key concepts of being objective, being ethical, being valid, generalizing is really an important part of quantitative research. So having both quantitative and qualitative skills is very important. Another thing is to start your reading on mixed methods. And you can find journal articles. There's thousands and thousands in the English-speaking journals and also in Asian journals of articles that use mixed methods research. There's something like 30 to 35, they keep expanding, books on mixed methods research. Now, these books on mixed methods research have a different orientation. Right over here, Donna Merton's book, for example, is a very good book on bringing about change in the community. This is a book in the health sciences. Down here on the left, this Foundations is more of a broad philosophical book, as this one is here too. And this is a health science book. So you need to know the orientation of the author. I tend to write
Everybody, we're facing the same technical glitch, and I would like to remind you that one of the upcoming webinars is going to be on November 10th, 2021, and the topic will be about the global opportunity of addressing rising temperatures. And the second one is going to be on the 16th of November 2021. And the topic will be about heat stress and adaptation possibilities for humans in cities. And last but not least is on the 22nd of November 2021. And the topics will be about SDG 7, universal access to modern clean energy. So I believe Professor Creswell is back.
Yeah.
All right.
I apologize. I don't know what's happened here, but I appreciate all of your patience. So I was going through these various books. I think another thing is to become familiar with the language of mixed methods research. And I've underlined some key terms here. I think knowing a definition of mixed methods is helpful. Knowing about the different forms of data, both quantitative and qualitative, the designs, diagrams, integrations, joint display, meta inferences. These are some of the key terms that if you're not familiar with these terms, these are the ones I would encourage. And also having support for doing mixed methods research, institutional, time, your discipline, colleagues, publication possibilities. These are all good factors. So that was step one, really, is mixed method suitable for you? Now, the second one is I would talk to you about what is your worldview? And I realized that, especially as I work with Asian countries, worldview is not something that's thought about, talked about in terms of research methods. But it's very important, I think, to reflect on the worldview that you as a researcher are bringing to research. You know, what are your beliefs and assumptions that guide your approach to research? And I think one way to think about this is very practical and useful is I'm going to go back to an old book by Thomas Kuhn on the nature of scientific revolutions. And he really talks about the paradigm, that's the word he uses, or the worldview, and how it's formed. And so I think that the worldview that you bring to your research is based upon the training you have and the field of study or your discipline that you have. You know, psychologists tend to think differently about research than social workers. Educators may think differently about research than people that are in geography or architecture. And so Kuhn was making the point that your worldview is shaped by your experiences, your field, and your training. And what this does is, right in here in the middle, it helps shape how you think about research in terms of important problems, methodologies, conclusions to draw, what publications, outlets, which then informs really some of your larger philosophical ideas, words such as epistemology, how we know something, and how do we know something is real, and the role of values, and the importance of different types of methodology procedures. Even how we write up a study is shaped, I think, by our worldview. And so you'll find in many mixed methods projects a section on the worldview or the paradigm of the researcher. And I think that's an important part to put into your project. So if you're in my office, I would now ask you, what is your worldview that informs?
Check. Ladies and gentlemen, we're facing the same technical glitch. And apparently on slido.com, we have had over 100 questions. And I'd like to inform you that one account can actually ask multiple questions. And later, okay, and Professor Creswell is back. Thank you so much. I think you're still muted. I think you need to unmute, Professor.
Yes, I'm back. So there was an important article in 2016 by an American professor, Shannon Baker, and she wrote this article in the Journal of Mixed Methods Research discussing the 4 leading worldviews or paradigms that are being used in mixed methods right now. Certainly pragmatism is one that gets has a lot of interest in mixed methods, where the focus is on research questions and gathering multiple forms of data. Critical realism, the philosophy of both subjective personal viewpoints as well as an objective reality. The transformative emancipatory worldview, very important, wanting to involve people in their communities, wanting to get them involved in the research, helping to bring about change. So we see this worldview a lot in the world countries.
So once again, I would like to inform you that one registered account on Slido can actually ask multiple questions. And currently we have had over 100 questions. And later we're going to select, or the participant can also vote for the questions. So welcome back, Professor.
Yes, I'm back. So these are 4 leading worldviews that are being discussed. And I'm very curious about what worldviews are being used in Indonesia and in Japan and in Hawaii. And I think there are different cultural worldviews that inform how we do research. The third step is to come up with a mixed methods title. So I would have you draft a title to your project very early on. I see this as a very short title because mixed methods sits between quantitative and qualitative. Let's keep it neutral and not use quantitative or qualitative words. Qualitative words, explore, meaning, discover, generate. Quantitative words, relationship, predict, etc. Or you could include both quantitative and qualitative in the title. I have a little template that I use that I would share with you if you're in my office. I would say, okay, let's write a title.
Okay, I would like everybody to also mark your calendar for the upcoming webinar series, because as we informed you earlier that today's webinar is actually the 2nd out of 7 International Distinguished Scholar Webinar Series, World Class University, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. And also we're still inviting more questions on slido.com. And we're going to inform you that currently we have over 1,000 viewers on YouTube and also around 5,000 participants joining the Zoom meetings, attending today's webinar. In addition to entering the code of #TopWebinar1, you can also scan the QR code that is now showing on your display and ask the questions to Professor Creswell. This is the YouTube channel that is live streaming today's webinar on TV UP. You can also subscribe on the channel to get updated. And welcome back, Professor.
Yes, I was going through this title. This is a little template. Write about your topic, the participants, the site, and then end with mixed methods. And just to give an illustration, you know, the topic might be challenges facing migrant workers in Indonesia, a mixed method study. So this is a very useful practical template for writing a title. Next, I would talk to you about whether the problem you're studying is best suited for mixed methods research. You know, we need to understand why you're actually, why we need your study and what's important about it. And it can be drawn from a need from the literature or for practice or from policy. And I'd have you talk a little bit about why do we need your study? And would mixed methods, gathering both quantitative and qualitative, help you understand that need better than just quantitative or qualitative alone? The next thing I would talk to you about would be the research questions for your project. So let's draft some research questions. Since we're using both quantitative and qualitative and mixed methods, we need really 3 sets of questions: qualitative questions, quantitative questions, and mixed methods questions. So by So I would talk to you about your qualitative research questions. I'd actually have you write out what your question would be. These questions are often very open-ended and they explore using words like what or how, focused on a single phenomenon. Very general questions such as describe how you learned mixed methods research. Very general open-ended question. Then I would have you write down your quantitative questions, which can either be questions or hypotheses, but the main focus is what variables are you interested in measuring? Independent, dependent variables? Are you using a theory? Example would be, does a high level of motivation lead to a positive feeling about mixed methods research? Can you pick out in that example the variables? Motivation as an independent variable influences the dependent variable of positive feelings. Now, we need to also begin thinking about a mixed methods question. Earlier, I said we're going to bring the two databases together. And our mixed methods question really gets to the point of what do we hope to learn from integrating the two databases? And the best way to think about these questions would be to come up with your design and then to write your questions. But a convergent design, we're going to go into in just a minute, what extent do the quantitative and qualitative results converge, or what happens when we compare the two? So in my books, we have examples of mixed methods questions. Now, I realize that most research textbooks do not cover mixed methods questions. They also don't cover the integration of databases. But the basic idea here is, what are we trying to learn from integrating the two databases? For example, how do the ways of learning mixed methods research compare with the scores about positive feelings of it? In other words, we're bringing together the scores as well as perceptions about learning it. We're bringing the two together. That's the mixed methods question. And I put together a little table here, which kind of reviews what we've been through: qualitative questions, quantitative, and mixed methods questions. When we had a task force in the US National Institute of Health in 2011, that task force recommended strongly that we have 3 sets of questions in every mixed methods project. Okay, next. Step 6, list your quantitative and qualitative data. So if we're going to bring these two databases together, first we need to separate them to see exactly what we're collecting quantitatively and qualitatively. For example, to me, quantitative data, although people talk about it as numbers or scores, I like to think of it as more closed. You're collecting closed-ended data. If we have a question, mixed methods research, is it easy to understand? Or just as a statement, mixed methods research is easy to understand. We would have some response categories: strongly agree to strongly disagree. Closed-ended data means we ask a question and we give some response categories. Qualitative data, on the other hand, is more open-ended. Is mixed methods research easy to understand? And then we just listen to all the participants' responses to that. So in a mixed method study, we have both quantitative and qualitative data, closed-ended and open-ended. And I put down some examples of types of data here, quantitative and types of qualitative data. And in the qualitative area, the types of databases have grown considerably over recent years. There's all kinds of data that we can collect in a research study. Web pages, attitudinal instruments, one-on-one interviews, observations, diaries, journals, telephone interviews, Twitter messages, focus groups, photographs, videotapes, even in the health sciences, biological data. What I do is I have you think through all of your databases. We might even actually put together a page like this that lists all your different types of data. But I want you to organize this into quantitative and qualitative. This is what we're doing at Michigan in our workshops. Separate the two databases so we can clearly see all of the quantitative and qualitative. And in fact, when you write your study, have a section on qualitative data and then have a section on quantitative data and list the two, because we want to then bring the two together. Now, some forms of data are both quantitative and qualitative. I understand that. But basically, we need to see these two types of data so that then we can begin bringing them together. Step 6, identify your type of mixed methods design. Now, a design means your set of procedures for conducting your research. When you go to my larger book and many books on written on mixed methods, they talk about the different types of mixed methods designs. In the 1980s, we knew that people were using quantitative designs or procedures like experiments, quasi-experiments, single subject design, survey design. We also knew that people were using designs in qualitative, ethnographies, grounded theories, case studies. So the mixed methods researchers soon began developing an understanding of the types of designs. And what happened then were many different typologies and many names of designs emerged and many types. So it became quite confusing for especially new researchers to mixed methods to decide on what their design was. So Plano Clark and I came up with 2 categories of designs: core mixed methods designs. Every mixed methods project has one of these core designs. I'm going to go through in a minute. And then these designs are often put within frameworks or procedures, such as an experiment, multiple case study, a program evaluation, participatory study. We call these complex designs. Different terms are used other than complex: advanced designs, embedded designs. My colleague Fetters at Michigan calls these scaffolding designs. But basically, we're taking our core designs and we're putting them into a more complex process or framework. And not all projects have that framework. First, core designs. And you may be familiar with these core designs and may have read about them. A convergent design. A convergent design I call a one-phase design. We're going to collect qualitative and quantitative data and merge the 2 databases and then make an interpretation. A slight variation on this is I call it a convergent design with data transformation. I'm seeing more and more of this in the health sciences, where you collect qualitative data and then you transform it into quantitative scores, and then you merge the 2 databases. So now you have a richer quantitative database because you've built some of the variables on people's perceptions gathered through qualitative data collection. So we're seeing more of this. An explanatory sequential design, an extremely popular design among graduate students. It starts quantitatively. I call this a 2-phase design. It starts quantitatively, where we collect data and then analyze it. And then we look at those results, and we might have surprising, unusual results, outlier results. We follow up with qualitative data collection to explain those results in more detail and make an interpretation. A two-phase, quantitative followed by qualitative. And then the third core design is an exploratory sequential design. Now, this is different than that explanatory because now we're starting qualitatively in phase one. And we analyze the qualitative data, and then we build some type of a quantitative assessment or measure. I call this quantitative design phase that is built upon what we learned qualitatively. And then we test out in phase three what we redesign. So often our instruments, our measures, are not sensitive to a particular population or a sample that we want to look at. I say, for example, we can't just drop a Western depression instrument into South Africa, or we can't drop a Western depression instrument into Japan or Indonesia. Let's start first by collecting qualitative data, and then we'll use that information to actually modify or change existing instruments to make them more suitable for the sample that we're studying.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to remind you that when you ask the questions on slido.com, please write down your name and your affiliation and your origin country if you're not from Indonesia. Currently, we're having 150 questions, but due to the time limit, we're going to choose some of them. And I would like also to remind you that we still have more upcoming webinars. First one is on November 10th, 2021. And the talk will be about the global opportunity of addressing rising temperature from Kurt Schickman. And welcome back, Professor Creswell. Thank you.
Yeah, so this exploratory sequential design is very popular in international global research because as we go into countries, we do need to adapt existing literature, measures, assessments in the literature. Well, people need to decide what is their core design. And I suggest that in every mixed method study, there's at least one core design. Are you simply gathering both quantitative and qualitative data in your project? Or are you beginning to put these two databases within some larger process or framework so that you have a complex design? For example, you can bring qualitative data into the framework of an experiment, intervention trial. Right here in the center, you see the experiment. And then you can gather qualitative data before the experiment in order to develop a good experimental set of conditions or to recruit participants. Or you can bring in qualitative data while the experiment is running, the convergent core design. Or bring in qualitative data after the experiment to actually follow up, because we know in a good experiment, we find out whether the treatment works, and we have some statistical values, p-values, confidence intervals, but we don't know why it worked, so we can follow up qualitatively. So one popular complex design is to bring qualitative core designs into the framework of an intervention trial. And this is a picture of my wife's study in Japan, where she had 4 phases. She brought qualitative data in before, right here, to explore and to build an intervention And then she followed up an intervention with qualitative data to understand those intervention results. And then she redesigned a final intervention trial. So this is a big project, but it uses multiple core designs that are embedded within an overall intervention study. We can also embed qualitative data into the evaluation. Let's say we want to evaluate a project. And there are steps or stages in our evaluation: a needs assessment, theory, developing instruments, testing them out, following up. But you see right here, this is really embedding an exploratory sequential design into the steps of a program evaluation. And right here, this is embedding an explanatory sequential design in the steps of evaluation. So this is an example of a complex design. We're embedding the core designs in the steps or stages of an evaluation project. So in time, we began thinking about how to decide what type of mixed method design you have. And I developed this flow chart. First, are you collecting both quantitative and qualitative data? If the answer is no, you don't have a mixed method study. But if the answer is yes, now the question is, how are you going to bring the two databases together? Are you going to merge them or connect the data? If you don't plan on bringing the two databases together, you really don't have a mixed method study, because mixed method study is based upon the integration of the databases. If your answer is yes, then are you going to be merging, actually trying to put the two databases together, merge them? The answer is yes, you have a convergent design. If you're going to connect the two databases, one following the other, one building on the other, and qualitative is first, now you have an exploratory sequential design. Is quantitative first? Now you have an explanatory sequential design. So following this, then, do you plan to use these core designs within some larger process or framework? And often in large funded projects covering many years, we do have a complex design. If you're not bringing it into larger process framework, you're dealing with one or more of these core designs. But if you are, now what is the framework or process that you're using the core design in? Is it an experiment, intervention, trial, case study, participatory action research project, evaluation, network analysis? There's a lot of possibilities. What's happening in the mixed methods world is that mixed methods is no longer seen as just a single standalone methodology, but it's being used in many different other frameworks and processes. So it's expanding its use because it can be used embedded within these larger frameworks. And then how are you actually embedding it? So this is a flow chart that I would work with you on to identify what your core design would be, and possibly, if you're going to do a complex study, what that might be. The next thing I would have you do is draw a picture of your design. These started almost 15 years ago in the mixed methods field. At the National Institute of Health, people were interested in mixed methods, but they said the projects are so complex, John, that I can't understand what's going on. So at that point, we started thinking about, well, how do we design the procedures for mixed methods research? So if you have one of the core designs, Remember, there were three basic types: convergent, explanatory sequential, exploratory sequential. Well, here's how I would help you draw a diagram of your design. I would say get a piece of paper, or you could do this on your computer, and put a box in for quantitative and qualitative. Mixed methods aim and aim 3, we can give it a title, your topic plus explanatory sequential design. And we can also, again, give it a timeline for how we're going to be doing this study. So that's how I would begin to have you draw out your procedures for your core designs. What about if you plan to have a complex design, like embedding these core designs within an experiment or a community participatory research study? Well, this is a recent idea in the last few years that I think people have found very helpful. I would suggest that you think of this as a two-stage process. First of all, what are the steps that you're going to be using in this framework or this process? And this is drawn from a book by Ivankova in 2015, where she's reporting a project actually in nursing care for older patients. And she's listing in these boxes, as you can see right here, these different boxes, the steps in doing her participatory study. She's first going to diagnose the environment, do a reconnaissance, then do, a planning, and actually starting to implement and evaluate her project and monitor the changes. These are fairly common steps in a community-based participatory research study. So listing out those steps. Then the second step in this is to identify where you have the opportunity to collect both quantitative and qualitative data. And here's this box on reconnaissance where they're collecting both forms of data. And now, how are they collecting both forms of data? Merging the two databases, having one build on the other, you can specify the core design. Here's another place in this complex design where they're collecting quantitative and qualitative data. Again, what's the core design? So this has been very useful for us to think about drawing a diagram of a complex design. First, list the steps, and then indicate in those steps where you're collecting both forms of data and what type of core designs. So in one of my recent articles, I even suggested, okay, if you have a complex design, you have two diagrams. One that indicates this and where the core designs fit in, and the second one on your core design. Now let's get to this area of mixed methods data analysis, which has been a very confusing area for many people. And I would say in the last 2 to 3 years, in our workshops at Michigan, we've begun to work out, how do you do mixed methods data analysis? And really mixed methods data analysis is the integration analysis, the integration of the two databases. So I put together this little chart that's helpful. And I also need to say that when I think about data analysis, whether it's quantitative or qualitative or mixed methods, I think in terms of the steps I'm going to use. Certainly the first step is to analyze both databases. I need to analyze my quantitative database and my qualitative. And then step 2 is integration of the two databases in my design, in my particular design. How am I going to integrate? So that flow chart, am I going to merge the data? I'm going to connect the data. What comes first, quantitative or qualitative? I'm going to integrate. Now, once I know how I'm going to integrate, I need to come up with a table or a figure to show that integration, represent the two databases of integration in a table or figure. Here's the term, a joint display. We're going to create a joint display. That's the most popular way to represent the data analysis of integration. And then from that joint display, we're then going to draw conclusions, insights, inferences, really on what the integration adds to our project beyond what we learned quantitatively or qualitatively. What new insight do we get from actually bringing the two databases together? So this integration is really merging the two databases, a convergent design. Connecting the databases, explanatory or exploratory sequential design. Embedding core designs into a framework or process, complex design. So some writers talk about all different kinds of integration. For me, it's very simple. There are 3 major ways that I see integration occurring. And we can actually go into our design. So this is a design of a convergent project, convergent mixed methods project, where we collect quantitative and qualitative data and we analyze it. And then we're going to compare the databases. So integration occurs right here, where we begin bringing the two databases side by side for comparison. So next, a joint display. What we want to do is we want to display that integration. We know in a research study, we have tables and figures for both quantitative results and qualitative results. So now let's put together a figure or a diagram for our integration results. Joint display is a table or graph that portrays both the quantitative and qualitative data so they can be easily compared. It's really a central feature in doing good mixed methods research. And we see joint displays being published in leading mixed methods articles today. Well, for a convergent design, where we're just merging the two databases and looking across the two databases, you know, when we ask people to fill out the survey and we also do some focus group interviews with them, do those two databases, how do they compare? Well, we might come up with some themes from our qualitative data analysis. And we might come up with some scores, high, medium, and low scores for our quantitative data. And what we can do here is put quotes or numbers in these cells. And we can ask ourselves, well, for the people that scored high, how were their perceptions different on these 4 themes, or were they similar? So we can look across a row, or we can look down a column. How did the high, medium, and low scoring people differ in terms of how they talked about theme 1? And we can look down the column here. So this table gives us the opportunity to actually look across the 2 databases and draw some insights. Let me talk just for a moment about how I would draw out this diagram, this joint display. First of all, I would ask you to put, if you're in my office and we're talking about your project, let's come up with an example of what your joint display might look like. Let's first draw a box like this. And if you're going to do exploratory sequential design, remember that's qualitative, followed by designing or modifying a quantitative instrument, followed by testing out that instrument. So let's put 3 columns in here. And also we want to look for insight. So we're going to look for our inferences across this. So phase 1, we're going to order these columns in terms of the phases. Phase 1 is qualitative. I'm bringing in a Hawaiian leadership project here. Phase 2 is then to redesign a survey instrument. Phase 3 is to actually administer that redesigned instrument to test it out, and then to draw some conclusions from what we learned from our integration. And so I'm then going to put in some hypothetical sample data at each one of the columns. You know, here were the themes I came up with after I gathered my focus groups. Here were some of the quantitative results from a survey instrument that I administered. Now this is a modified instrument. And then when I actually tested out the instrument, here were some of the quantitative results. And then the insights, looking across the row here. Well, you know, what are the practice research insights? What are the research insights, et cetera? So that's kind of how I would draw a sample joint display. Now, once we have the joint display, we need to look across the databases and draw some conclusions about what we learned from this integration. This is called inferences or meta inferences. It's called meta because we have quantitative inferences and qualitative inferences, mixed methods.
We get disconnected again. So we will extend our timing probably until 11 o'clock because this is Friday. Okay.
And also allow me to again inform you the upcoming webinars in commemoration of Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia 67th anniversary or Dies Natalis. The first one will be on November 17th, 2021. And the topic of the talk will be about dark academia, who's afraid of the neoliberal university, delivered by Professor Peter Fleming, and acting or serving as the moderator will be Dr. Vina Adriani. Next one on November 22nd, 2021, the topic of the talk will be about Universal Access to Modern Clean Energy, and Professor Dr. Haji Muhammad Ali will be moderating the session. And the third one, the talk will be about multi-representation in science education, which will be held on November 26th, 2021. And welcome back, Professor.
Yeah, sorry for the interruption again, but I was telling you that this is a joint display table, and we've added a column here and a row for inferences. So we can actually write in this column, in this cell, what conclusions we draw from looking across these themes, say for the high scoring people, or when we look at the high, medium, and low scoring people, how do they speak differently about this? So I would have you draw a joint display and add into it inferences. I have just a couple more and then we'll go to your questions. I think it's important in any good research study to have a conceptual framework and to actually link that framework into your mixed method design. In one of my books, I have this picture of a rainbow. You know, a conceptual framework or a theory is really something that goes over the entire project. It helps explain what you hope to learn in your project. And I also report in one of my books this picture that theories or conceptual frameworks can just start with basic hunches, you know, ideas, what you hope to think you'll find, to a conceptual framework or theoretical rationale that's actually in the literature, to applied theory and grand theory that have been tested over and over again. But the basic idea is, what do you hope to find in your project from both quantitative and qualitative data? Now, what I suggest is that you actually put the name of your theory into your design. So this is an explanatory sequential design. Remember, we start quantitatively, we then connect, we come up with results, and we analyze the results. And then build our qualitative phase, and then make an interpretation and come up with some explanations. So I called this a two-phase project, quantitative followed by qualitative. Where do you think a theory or conceptual framework might inform the parts of this study? You know, typically we find in explanatory sequential design that the theory begins shaping this first phase, the quantitative data. So we come up with, say, a theory of behavioral change that informs actually how we design our survey instrument and begin measuring behaviors. So you see, I put a box into my diagram that makes explicit what theory we're using in our project. And then the final part I would talk to you about would be your validity. What is your validity strategy in your project? Now, we tend to think about three validity strategies in mixed methods research. You have your quantitative validity, the qualitative validity, and the qualitative data, and then also something new that you may have not thought about before, and that is the mixed methods validity. Quantitative validity you may be familiar with, you know, instrument score validity, design validity, internal validity, external validity, some of the threats to this. So we need to think about how you're going to validate the scores and the instrument that you're using in your quantitative study. Well, you know, qualitative research also has its strategies for validation. When you're doing a qualitative study, the researcher makes many interpretations. You read through the focus group transcripts, and you interpret what the codes are and what the themes are. But how do we know whether that interpretation is good and accurate? So we have strategies for checking the accuracy of our qualitative findings, results. Member checking. You know, you take your codes and themes and your stories back to people, participants that have been in your project, and you ask them. I usually conduct a focus group, and I'll say, here are the codes and themes I've come up with. Are these accurately reflecting your understanding? Another good way is to triangulate the data from different data sources. So in qualitative, we often collect multiple types of qualitative data: interviews, one-on-one interviews, focus groups, observations, documents. We look across these databases and see if there are common codes and themes across the databases. That encourages a stronger accuracy of the data. Extended time in the field, disconfirming evidence, having an external review. These are all validation strategies. Mixed methods. Well, what is the validation? How valid, accurate, and being able to draw good inferences is our integration, is our design. And some of the mixed methods researchers have their own term called legitimation. I tend to just simply call this mixed methods validity. Let me give you an example. So we've talked about this convergent design, a single phase project where we're just bringing the two databases together, merging them, and then making an interpretation of what we learned. When the people filled out the survey, did they respond in a similar or a dissimilar way to the survey people? You know, how did these two responses compare? Are they similar or are they different? Merging the data, and we do that in a joint display. Now, what are some challenges to this design that might lead to poor inferences or poor decisions about the accuracy of what we learned? So in my books with Plano Clark and in many mixed methods books today, we're talking about mixed methods validity. And the way I think about it is in terms of specific designs. For example, in a convergent design, we may not have the questions addressing the same concept. That could lead to inaccurate conclusions. We certainly have different sample sizes. The tendency is to have a large quantitative database and a smaller quantitative, no, excuse me, a larger quantitative and a smaller qualitative. How the results are merged. And probably the biggest challenge to validity in this design is not following up. If you have results that give you different pictures, you need to engage in some strategies. And we've been writing about these strategies. So these are the 11 steps I've gone through now. I've worked with you on each one of these steps, probably in multiple sessions. But let me show you one more picture. I have put together this map of all the different major topics in the mixed methods field as we're talking about them today. And in the yellow, I've highlighted the ones that I've emphasized here in this presentation. And you'll see that there are many topics we've talked about: the problem, the type of design, writing a good mixed methods title, choosing the type of design, drawing a diagram of the design, validity, integration, linking integration into the study. You saw that with my red arrow and my designs. Picturing integration in the designs, a mixed methods question, quantitative, qualitative question, using theory, identifying a worldview. Some of the topics I've not addressed in this webinar. would be actually the structure of writing up a project. We've talked a lot about this. My concise book goes into this topic quite a bit. Also sampling. Again, my concise book goes into the sampling issues. And we've not touched upon the important topic of ethics. And there are some new articles coming out on the ethical issues in mixed methods research. And this will be developing a whole new domain within the field of mixed methods research. So you can see we've covered a lot of topics in this presentation. And hopefully I've updated you as to what some of the current thinking is in the field. So we still have time for some questions. And I'll turn it over to my moderator, to Dr. Hamid, to help me out here. What kind of questions would you like me to answer?
Okay. All right. We have already extended our time because of the problems of connections that we had. So this is an example of how we validate our knowledge about mixed methods research by listening to Professor Criswell's presentation. Now what we know has already been confirmed right now. Better, even better.
Good.
I think we just sample some of the questions from the participants, considering the time we have right now. All right. Could you show the questions?
Yes, please. You have the questions?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Let's proceed.
All right. Yep. Question number one is, where is it?
Ah.
No. Okay. Okay, all right. It's very small.
I can see that.
Yeah. If you can read it, the one blued.
Absolutely.
What about philosophical issues? Because mixed method combines two different opposite philosophical paradigms. How to synthesize the two different views? Go ahead.
Yes. Well, and I'll try to keep my answers very short here so we can get in as many questions as possible. This is a very important question being asked. And yes, because quantitative has certain philosophical views and qualitative has certain philosophical views, you're bringing the two together. What mixed methods researchers have looked to would be a paradigm that allows both views, even though they're opposite. I showed you that table of the 4 paradigms or worldviews that are being discussed in mixed methods. Pragmatism says you can have multiple worldviews. And in a study, you will report that you're using both worldviews. The dialectic pluralism worldview also enables you to synthesize. In fact, they say that there's some advantages to having different worldviews. If, for example, we're doing an explanatory sequential design, we're starting quantitatively, so I would report that worldview. We're moving then to qualitative, I would report that worldview. We may then even advocate at the end, so there's participatory worldview, so it may be 3 different worldviews. So you can mix, you can have multiple worldviews in a mixed method study. And pragmatism is one that especially allows you to incorporate different philosophical issues of different worldviews.
This is probably related to the second question, which is about bias. The qualification of the researchers themselves. How can we avoid bias because of misunderstanding of the issues?
Well, in the past, in quantitative research, we try to avoid bias. And we have many strategies for doing that. In qualitative research, on the other hand, we try to report our bias. I think one way I would suggest to bring these two approaches together would be to have a worldview that crosses both quantitative and qualitative, and to talk about your bias as well as talk about a need to avoid bias in a project. So many people will include both bias perspectives in a mixed methods project. I tend to favor more of the qualitative project. If you have bias as a researcher, you need to talk about your experiences and the biases that you're bringing into the project. Having both perspectives in a project, one quantitative and one qualitative, is useful, and then how mixed methods would incorporate both perspectives is what I would suggest. That's a great question. And I don't think it's been completely resolved, but people still report both biases in a mixed methods project. Let's take the next one.
The next question is from Malaysia. How can we identify our research work which need to be conducted using mixed methods rather than using only quantitative or qualitative method? I think you have already explained that in your presentation, actually.
Yes, and I think you can say this is a methodology that's grown extremely popular around the world. It's a methodology that fits these complex problems we're studying, where if we were to use just quantitative, we wouldn't get the full understanding of our problem. If we use just qualitative, we wouldn't have a more complete understanding of our problem. We need to use mixed methods.
Can we use mixed method and integrate them with a prototype development model?
So here's where, that's a great question. Here's where the prototype development model. Now, I'm not exactly familiar with these that you mentioned, but are there phases or stages in that model? So we have a complex design, mixed methods design here. First, list the stages, and then look at in each stage, see where you have the opportunity to collect quantitative and qualitative data and bring in a core design. That could be a convergent, explanatory, or exploratory core design. So this would be, I mentioned the different complex design applications that we tend to talk about: experiment, action research, evaluation, case study. But prototype development is yet another process or framework that you're going to embed mixed methods into.
Okay. Next question is, how can we convince the results of the research with qualitative methods in policy research? Because many people doubt the results of the research from qualitative one. Okay.
Yes, good question. Many policy researchers, many people might think that qualitative research is too interpretive, because after all, we gather the qualitative database like a focus group, and the researcher makes an interpretation of what the codes and themes would be. My answer to this always is, let's put in strong qualitative validity strategies, multiple strategies into our project. Let's take our qualitative results back to participants and ask them, is this an accurate record? Let's triangulate among the different databases. Let's spend more time in the field gathering data. These are all strategies. And in my qualitative books, I talk about 8 qualitative strategies. And so if you're dealing with people that are challenging the interpretive approach of qualitative research, build in multiple validity qualitative strategies to check the accuracy. I think qualitative is every bit as scientific as quantitative. And so we do have these validity approaches that we often use in qualitative research. Good question.
Okay, actually we have more than 150 questions coming into our box. So what we can do, probably we will forward all these questions to you whenever you have time to respond to them, then it would be okay. One last question that I could put forward to you right now. From Malaysia, I was curious if the pilot study using the interview method to build up the questionnaire for the quantitative study, would the study be called as mixed method?
Yes. You are collecting qualitative pilot study data through interviews, and then you'll be designing or redesigning a questionnaire and then testing it out quantitatively. You have here an exploratory sequential design. And while this approach has been used to develop questionnaires in the past, mixed methods, I think, brings a very systematic process to this procedure, where we're going to use an exploratory sequential design and design or redesign a questionnaire and then test it out. So yes, it's mixed methods. You're collecting both forms of data. Yes, it's an exploratory sequential mixed methods design. That's what I would call this.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, because we have running out of time, we have been running out of time, and we have so far learned a lot from Professor Criswell.
Thank you.
Thanks
you
a lot
very much
for you sharing your expertise with us.
It's been my delight to speak to you today. Now, what I'll do is I'll take these questions that are forwarded to me and I'll group them maybe into four types of questions. Okay. And I'll give a written response back to the conference, to the webinar organizers.
That's very good.
That then you can send out to 7,000 people.
Sure.
That would be great.
We do hope you can still make yourself available in the future to attend and come to our campus in person rather than
I would love to
online.
do that.
Okay.
I'd love to do that.
Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, let's return to the committee. Go ahead. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your kind attention and participation.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big round of applause to both Professor Criswell and also Professor Fuad for such a great, fruitful discussion. Or you can hit the reactions, the clapping on the reactions button to give the virtual applause to the professor. And I would like to remind all participants to fill in the attendance link that is distributed either on the chat box, chat room on the Zoom meeting link, or on the comment section on the YouTube live streaming through TVUP YouTube channel. Ladies and gentlemen, and also Professor Criswell, as a token of appreciation from the organizing committee of today's webinar, there will be a certificate which will be virtually presented by the Directorate of International Affairs, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, Bapak Ahmad Bukhari Muslim, to Professor Criswell. So, Pak Abu, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Ubad. So on behalf of Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, we would like to extend our highest appreciation to Professor John W. Criswell for his very insightful and enlightening explanation about mixed method research today.
Thank you very much. It's an honor. It's an honor to receive this certificate from such a distinguished university.
Sure, we do hope that we can, in the next time, we can physically invite you and warmly welcome you to our Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
I'd
very
love to
much,
come.
Pak Abu.
I'd love to come.
Sure.
Looking forward to having you here, sir.
Yeah, thank
The
you.
second certificate is awarded to today's moderator, Professor Fuad Abdul Hamid, which also be virtually presented by the director of DIA UPI, Bapak Ahmad Bukhari Muslim, please.
Okay, so Professor Fuad Abdul Hamid, once again, thank you very much for your time and availability and very nice running of the program. Thank you very much. Hatur nuhun.
Ladies and gentlemen, now we have come to the end of today's webinar. But before that, I would like to inform you that further information regarding the upcoming webinar series organized by DIA UPI can be found on Instagram account of DIA UPI at dia.upi, that is at dia.upi. And please mark your calendar. The nearest one is going to be on November 10th, 2021. And the talk will be about the global opportunity of addressing rising temperature by Kurt Sigman, Director of Adrian Arts Rockefeller Foundation, Resilience, Washington, D.C., USA. And the second webinar is going to be on the 16th of November, 2021. And the topic of discussion will be about heat stress and adaptation possibilities for human in cities, which will be delivered by Professor Andreas Matsarakis, a member of Research Center, Human Biometeorology of the German Meteorological Service, University of Freiburg, Germany. The next one is going to be on the 17th of November, 2021. And the topic of discussion will be about dark academia, who's afraid of the neoliberal university, delivered by Professor Peter Fleming from University of Technology of Sydney, who is also a business school author of Dark Academia, How Universities Die. The next one is going to be on November 22nd, 2021. And the topic of discussion is SDG 7, Universal Access to Modern Clean Energy. And last but not least is going to be on November 26th, 2021. And the topic of discussion will be about multi-representation in science education. Further details, including the registration link, can be found on our Instagram account. So once again, please follow at dia.upi on Instagram, at dia.upi. So ladies and gentlemen, once again, this is the end of our session for today's webinar. I am Ubad, your Master of Ceremony. On behalf of the organizing committee, would like to again extend my most sincere gratitude for your enthusiastic participation. Today we have over 7,000 participants joining the event. Thank you so much. And also my apologies for any inconvenience. So everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a great day. Bye-bye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Looking forward to see you on the next webinars.